Most people believe giving means sacrifice. This chapter says something very different.
Welcome to EchoReads. This is The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran, Chapter 4. On giving.
We often think about generosity in very simple terms. You have something and you give it to someone who needs it.
It seems straightforward.
But there's a deeper way to look at it, one that suggests giving our possessions is, well, often the smallest part of the act.
It's a really challenging idea, isn't it? That you give but little when you give of your possessions. It flips everything on its head.
So if it's not about the things, the material stuff,
Yeah.
then what is it?
It has to be that true giving, real generosity, is found only when you give of yourself.
And what does that actually mean, to give of yourself?
I think it means giving without that internal reservation, without attachment. And to get there, we first have to look at why we cling to our possessions in the first place.
Which almost always comes down to fear.
Exactly, fear. The fear of needing them tomorrow. We aren't just saving for a rainy day. We're building these huge defenses against a future we can't predict.
There's that striking image of the overprudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand.
Yeah, what a picture that paints. The dog is so worried about the future, it hides its resources so well in a place so vast.
That it will probably never find them again.
It's all this effort, all this foresight that just leads to loss, to being trapped by your own planning.
And that leads to a really profound paradox, that the fear of need is, in itself, a state of need.
Right. If you're completely paralyzed by the thought of not having enough, then you're already living in that scarcity. You're already suffering.
It doesn't matter what you actually have in the bank.
Not at all. There's that line about the dread of thirst when your well is already full.
That is the thirst.
That's the thirst that can't be quenched. That psychological state of worry, even when you're surrounded by abundance, that's the real shortage.
So if we approach giving from that place of fear, that internal shortage, the gift itself is already, tainted.
It's compromised before it even leaves your hand, which is why it's so important to look at the motivations, the different reasons why people give.
Let's start with what you might call the unwholesome gift.
Okay, so this is the person who gives, but only a little bit from their great abundance.
And they do it. Why?
For recognition, for the credit. Their hidden desire for praise is what makes the gift feel hollow, unwholesome. The focus is all on them, not on the person they're supposedly helping.
It sounds a bit like a public relations move, not a genuine act of giving.
It can be. Now contrast that with the complete opposite type of giver, the one who has very little but gives all of it.
The believers.
The believers in life and in the bounty of life, they trust in the flow of things so completely. Their coffer is never empty because their wealth isn't in what they hold.
It's in their trust.
Exactly. Their trust is their wealth. It's a completely different way of seeing the world.
And then you have the givers who are more tuned into the emotion of it all.
Right. On one hand, you have people who give with joy, and for them, that joy is its own reward. It just feels good to do it.
But then there's a much darker, or at least heavier side to that, those who give with pain.
And they see that pain, that deep sacrifice, as their baptism.
A kind of spiritual cleansing.
Yes. The difficulty, the suffering of the act, becomes a purifying experience for them.
But it's interesting, both joy and pain are still a kind of reward for the giver. It's still about something they get out of it, emotionally.
It is. So is there a form of giving that goes beyond even that?
One that seeks nothing at all.
Yes. The purest form. To give without seeking joy or pain or even thinking about virtue, you just give.
There's that beautiful analogy for this.
As in yonder valley, the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space.
It just happens. It's not a decision.
No, the myrtle doesn't decide who is worthy of its scent. It doesn't wonder if it feels good or bad. It simply is. It's an act of being.
And when a person reaches that state of giving,
It's said that through their hands, God speaks, and from behind their eyes, he smiles upon the earth. The act becomes part of a much larger fundamental flow of life.
if giving should be that natural, that effortless, what does that say about timing? Should we always wait to be asked?
Well, it's good to give when asked, of course, but it's better to give unasked, through understanding.
To anticipate the need.
Yes, to act on empathy before a request is even made. And for someone who is truly open-handed, the joy isn't just in the final act of giving.
It's in the search.
The search itself, the search for someone who will receive, is a joy greater than giving. It's this active seeking of an opportunity to let life flow through you.
You know, all this is grounded in a very realistic view of life, that nothing we have is permanent.
That's the great certainty, isn't it? All possessions will someday be given up. We're just temporary caretakers.
So the encouragement is to give now.
Give now so that the season of giving belongs to you and not to your inheritors.
It's a call to claim that.
And this is where the whole idea gets really challenging to our ego. It just strips that judgment away.
Yeah.
By looking at nature. The trees in your orchard and the flocks in your pasture, they don't say that. They don't check for worthiness.
You just give. Fruit, wool, shade. No questions asked.
They give so that they may live. Because for them, to withhold is to perish. Holding back is a kind of stagnation, a death.
So if nature doesn't judge, how do we decide who is worthy among people?
The argument is simple, and it's so powerful. Anyone who is worthy enough to receive their own days and nights is worthy of anything else you have to give.
If they are worthy of life itself, who are we to deny them something small?
Precisely. If they deserve to drink from the great ocean of life, they certainly deserve to fill their cup from your little stream.
That phrase, your little stream, is so humbling. It puts our own contribution in perspective.
It does. You're not the source. You're just a small channel, offering a temporary convenience.
But the biggest twist here, I think, is where the greatest worthiness is actually found. It's not in the giver.
No, not at all. It's in the one who receives.
The greatest worthiness is the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving.
The charity of receiving. It completely flips our whole notion of virtue. We praise the giver, but it can take incredible courage just to accept a gift.
Why is receiving an act of charity?
Because it requires such vulnerability, especially if the giver demands that you prove your need.
You're asked to, what, rend your bosom and unveil your pride?
Yes, to lay yourself bare just to prove you are worthy. And when we judge, that's often what we are asking people to do, whether we realize it or not.
So before we judge the person receiving,
we have to look at ourselves first. Am I worthy to be a giver, to be an instrument of giving? It forces a kind of self-check against our own spiritual pride.
If we're just instruments, then what is the source? Who is actually doing the giving?
The ultimate truth is that it is life that gives unto life. And the person who thinks of themselves as a giver is really just a witness to that process.
Produce a channel.
We're the channel, not the source. And if we're all channels, then we are all ultimately receivers.
Which means there has to be guidance for the receiver, too.
Crucial guidance. The receiver is told not to assume a weight of gratitude.
Because that creates a yoke, a burden.
It does. It puts a yoke on you and on the person who gave. That constant feeling of being indebted can be paralyzing. It turns a gift that should be freeing into a cage.
So what's the alternative to that feeling of debt?
You should rise together with the giver on his gifts as on wings.
The gift should lift both of you up.
Exactly. It should be an act of shared freedom, not an anchor of obligation for the receiver.
And the final piece of advice for the receiver is about faith, really. Faith in the gift's origin.
It is. To be over-mindful of your debt is to doubt the giver's generosity. It's to doubt that the gift came from a pure place.
A place whose mother is the free-hearted earth and whose father is God.
By focusing too much on paying it back, you imply the gift wasn't free, that it was conditional. You diminish the act.
So we move from this very practical psychology of, burying bones in the sand all the way to this cosmic truth.
We do. Generosity isn't just a transaction between two people. It's the flow of existence, and we are just two witnesses who have agreed to take part.
It's a completely different framework for virtue. Virtue isn't in what you sacrifice or who you choose. It's in becoming a clear, open channel for life's abundance.
To let it move where it needs to go.
Which leaves us with a real challenge. If the fear of need is need itself, and if the greatest virtue is the charity of receiving,
then perhaps the hardest thing we can do is just allow ourselves to receive, to be filled without that crushing immediate burden of, how do I pay this back?
It's a call to trust the flow, to stop worrying about the bones we buried.
And to accept that sometimes the most generous act we can possibly perform is to simply accept the gift that's already being offered with courage and without judgment. That might be the true test.